I love to be the person that connects a solution to the outcome, and I'm the person with the intuition, right? Someone that it's been long enough around to have the machine learning, call it gut feeling, call it intuition, call it, I don't know, right?
Welcome to the Warriors at Work show. This is Jeannie Coomber, your guide and host. This is a show for men and women in the workplace who want to move from the predictable to the potent. This is your weekly dose of inspiration with an edge. I talk with CEOs and shamans, sports marketing executives and therapists. All of us are like-minded thinkers and doers who tell stories, share wisdom, and challenge each other to have the best life possible inside and outside the office. Welcome to your Warrior Conversation.
Hey everybody, it's Jeannie. Thank you so much for joining me here at Warriors at Work. Today, I am bringing to you a conversation with an executive in sales and technology, Marenza Altieri Douglas. She has worked in technology and disciplined execution for many years. She's trained in structured enterprise environments, startups, scale-ups. She is steeped in strategic direction, opening new markets, and building commercial enterprise. But that's not what we talk about today. Instead, we talk about how she is an incredible storyteller. She's rooted in things like disruption, cultivation, and her personal story is key to this whole narrative. And I was so thrilled that she came on, told us a little bit about our story, and you're going to be fascinated on how she ties it all together about how she's leading and operating in the business climate. So enjoy this wonderful conversation.
I'm so excited to have this conversation about you, your journey, specifically around disruption as well. So thank you so much for joining me. And Marenza's joining us here from London. So I'm very, very appreciative of the time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. And it's Olney. It's a little town between Milton Keynes and Bedford. I was telling you.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Marenza, like your story is so fascinating, and we're going to get into some of the specificity around it. But what I would love for you to start with is tell us about who Marenza is in the world, and then tell us who she is in her career.
Okay, so I often get asked, a way to describe myself, and I try to be natural in the way I describe who I am as a woman, who I am as a professional, who I am as a mother, who I am as a daughter, a sister. So let's talk about Marenza professionally. Yeah. And I'll try to give you a little bit of color around the rest. So today, I am someone who lives at the intersection of people and change. So I didn't start in a linear way. I don't have a linear life, if you can say that. Normality is not something that I wanted to adhere to necessarily. And my life was shaped really early on by, you said the disruption, right? When we first met. Funnily enough, after many years working in technology, only today I have this title that somehow represents me the most, because being an hybrid, am I sales, I'm commercial, I look after events and etc. Right? But I'm always been a technologist. So if I had to professionally describe myself, I'm someone that really enjoys technology, especially if I have great people around me.
I could believe that you have this beautiful energy and way to you, that like there's this vitality. So I could see you getting a lot of energy with and through other people. And you had the most fascinating upbringing. I'm going to give a little snippet because it's so shaped who you are as a leader and how you show up in the world. And I just wanted to share a few things here. Born and raised in Italy, a strong earthquake devastated your community and the events surrounding that earthquake, and it really changed the course of your life.
You were educated by nuns who treated the boys and the girls the same, everything from, which is so fascinating, painting, sewing to judo and football.
Yeah.
You were exposed to the work of Alan Turing, and you were
Yeah.
exposed to the world of coding and IT. And you went on to get a PhD from St. Andrews. All of that provided that runway for you to combine the technical skills and analytical skills with this deep, heartfelt connection with people and relationship building. And you shared with me that that experience was so important in how it informed how you live your life.
Yeah.
And it's also why you believe in wearing lots of different hats. So I would love for you to give us even more context behind that
Yes.
story.
Yes. So that formative moment, let's say, which I always go back to, was the 23rd of November, 1980, which I think I'm giving away my real age, right?
All good.
Oh, yeah. And I am originally from the only region in Italy. So Italy's got 20 regions from the south of Italy, but I come from the mountains. And it's the only region who's got two names. So we, from the region of Basilicata, we love to refer ourselves as Lucani, from a region called Lucania, which is a way to say the region of the wolves, right? Very, very wild. So we had this devastating earthquake. Lots of people died. It was very, very dramatic, very difficult for the population, because being up in the mountains, it was very difficult for the rescue teams and the army to reach out. Incredibly, though, at that particular moment, I saw communities coming together. The community itself was terribly shaken, yet I saw people, and I remember, I mean, I was still very young, but I remember not in black and white. My memories are in full colors, and I remember all the different shades of the dust that was forming and coming out of this buildings and everything else that fell down. And so in my region, we're talking 3,000 people passed, and all the men and women and everyone was trying to literally by hands, right? So the sense of community and I remember it was cold because it was winter. I remember it was in the middle of the mountains, but something happened straight after that. Is that somehow someone, and I guess it must have been the European community, they decided to give us help in the terms of work, meaning they did send the army to help. They did send the nuns, because in my town, we had a convent, and they sent us the nuns. And I'm not I don't want to offend anyone, I'm not a religious person. I'm a scientist. I believe that science needs to give you the answers, and religion is for comfort, right? But I am so grateful for the gift that I received growing up in that community. Those nuns, I remember having dinners. And the reason why they did that, Ginny, is because they wanted men and women to quickly go back to work, and they needed a place for the children to have, what is today an after school club where you go and you do,
Extracurricular.
Well, exactly. So we were coming out of school, and then we were thrown into this massive auditorium. It was a big auditorium, like Harry Potter style.
Yeah.
And we had those nuns, and I remember that I'm a big fan of Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling, because I associate my childhood to that. So it was similar to these people going around in capes, superhero. And for me, those ladies were superheroes. I mean, I never associated that for the way they were teaching us respect, equality, inclusion, responsibility, discipline. And what you said is so true. One of the most important person in my life was a nun, and their name is Suor Raffaella, and she was wearing some Adidas trainers underneath their cape. And she was the one that taught me how to build tables and chairs, how to paint with oils, with acrylics. She was the one, and I remember the discipline. One morning it was my day to do some chores. I don't know. Anyway, I didn't wake up, and she came with a bucket with ice and and she softly reminded me that it was my day for my chores and serve breakfast for everyone. So I'm going to be eternally grateful for that. So those limitations, south of Italy, growing up straight after, the feminist era, and they told us, well, you need to go to study, you need to become a lawyer, a doctor, or something else, right? But then as a consequence of that injection of support, because it wasn't necessarily money, right? It was support that my community was receiving. They decided to give us labs, Jeannie, labs of languages, labs, not even Milan. So we had like boxes at high school, a middle school, high school, where you go in, you've got someone talking to you in French or in Spanish, and you can record and stop and learn languages like that. At the same time, they gave us the first rudimentary laptops, going back, and then some books in all sorts of languages. And then when I meet, it was a postcard on in between some books of Alan Turing. And so the combination of, how grateful, how lucky I was, and the people of my generation growing up, such a tragic event that then became so deeply impactful in my, for me, not professionally only, but as a human being, right?
Right. And so you talked about Alan Turing and when that came into, was that the catalyst that got you interested in science?
Yes. Because what happened is that I got to a point where I was a very good student. I was just someone that was paying attention in class. I was really engaged. I was the one at the front all the time. But I wasn't necessarily the nerd, because I was also an artist, because of the painting. I still paint today. If I do have some, all the things, many, many years ago. And so I decided to go into a special course during my high school that was combining high maths together with classical studies. It was intense. But it was very important to me, and I strongly believe in that today. And that I also do some volunteering with STEM subjects. I go into school and I talk to students about what I think. I don't know what I want to be when I'm old. I don't know what I want. I'm now, I'm going to be 50 in July, and I am very, very happy of what I have achieved. I think that I'm a very successful human being. I'm healthy. I have a very good group of friends and people that love me. Yet I was very fortunate because I did everything. I was exposed, Jeannie, to anything. I did music, I did arts, I did computer science, I did programming, coding, and all of that. But it was something that was, taking me into technologies because of all those subjects that I was curious about. Technologies was the only one that was changing very, very rapidly. Like changing all the time.
So you like
were
the
learning
speed
something
of it. You like the speed of the technology.
Yes. And that's, I don't know if it's a limit or an advantage, but I probably that's one of the reasons why I always worked for American companies, right? Until now, it's just you guys have you're fast, you're fast. So I was happy to have someone around me that was going as fast as I am and thinking also fastly, right? And so that's how we started. Now I did some coding. I'm really not good at coding. Really not good. And why in those environments I was very lucky to be part of, I was, when I started my career with British Telecom, right? I was part of the fast track program. So where they identify some future leaders, and they said, all right, Marenza, you've got this doctorate in economics, you need to go and work for finance. So I did that for 2 weeks. I said, come on, get me out of here. Just I'll do it. Then it was very helpful, right? I did some budget reconciliation for British Telecom for a few weeks. Fantastic, very helpful. I did learn a lot. I said, no. Then they put me with the legal team. Loved it. I mean, those guys and girls dress beautifully, right? And then they moved me into marketing for a while. I jumped HR. I said, thank you very much. Just let me go somewhere else. Respectfully for the human resources colleagues. And then I spent a lot of time with the engineering team. Loved it. Absolutely loved. And then they moved me into commercial team. And that's where I could actually have the exposure of all those departments around me. And I just love meeting customers or prospect, call it as you want, right? And that's, one of I'm the bridge. I want to be the bridge. When people say, are you sales? Well, depends. I love to be the person that connects a solution to the outcome, and I'm the person with the intuition, right? Someone that it's been long enough around to have the machine learning, call it gut feeling, call it intuition, call it, I don't know, right?
Yeah. Well, now you're talking my language. I talk a lot about it's intellect and intuition. It's soul and strategy. And I know that's very much what you embody. And, all of those experiences, it makes so much sense to me. Like my brain immediately went to like management training program. They gave you exposure to all the functions at BT. And I am curious, when did you realize this idea of disruption and challenging things became a part of your brand? And I'd love for you to explain, like, when you say disruption, what does it mean? And when did it become a part of you?
Okay, so think about who we are, right? We are Generation X. We have incredible stamina. We have seen it all, right? We were leaving in the morning. First thing, I don't know if my mom and dad couldn't care less if I was coming back for dinner or not. So I knew like the light was going on the street, so I know it was the time to come back. So we grew up very independently, yet we are the first generation that had to get a mobile and start, switch the communication from the analog to the digital, right? So I think we, from this generation, we are naturally born adaptable, right? So we adapt, and we actually enjoy the change rather than fighting it. We embrace it, and we try to navigate with it. So for me, disruption has never been a negative. It never had a negative shadow. It's always been something positive, because I do honestly believe that change is positive, right? It's if you stay still, you don't move, and everything else around you is moving. Going back to what I said earlier, right, about technology, it's something that I fell professionally in love with, because it was the only place where I could feel continuous learning for me, where every day I was going to work, and I'm going to work and I'm learning continuously, because technology is moving so fast around me. Think about the last few years, and I've been working now in AI for a number of years, even if, before now 70% of the companies with AI in the title don't even do AI, right? But I've been doing this for a long time. So, from many, many years ago, when I was exposed to the work of Professor Turing and everything that happened in between. So for me, disruption is is how can we technologists and people in the community around, software and large enterprises, can adapt, so going on the intuition part that is so, is so dear, is so dear to you. So the machine learning, the intuition is a pattern recognition, through experience. So I will say we, because we are so similar, you and I, right? But I say, I do trust data, and I do trust data deeply. But data is never the full story, right? So the intuition helps me when you're around the table, right? So intuition helps me and helps you to sense what's not been said. What's emerging, and what are the resistance, what are the opportunities. And I did suffer during the pandemic, because I could not have that, and I had to adapt again. Disruptive moment, right? We all had, but I guess the people that were sad for the least amount of time were the people like you and I that adapt quickly. So we were able to forge important relationship doing this. You don't necessarily have to be around the table, right? Of course, I can't wait to meet you, like myself and Ejime, that was the person that introduced us. Right. Ejime and I, we have developed this very sincere, beautiful friendship, and we are, professional women and etc. Ejime and I never met. Ejime and I, we speak and etc. Because, we very similar individual, and of course we can meet, but we can't wait to meet. But it's that, despite the difficulties and the pandemic and the fact that we cannot meet, there is something not said, but very, very visible, that we can all grab and make it tangible.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And what I'd love to do is, being you have such a strong foundation of so many competencies. So there's a lot of left brain stuff there that you've been exposed to, but then there's a ton of connection and rapport and energy to how you get insight. I would love to just pull us into your working self. And I want you to think about the world at large. What do you feel are the most important qualities for people to be thinking about and embodying?
Okay. And this is only week 3 of January, Jania. And the world is, it's interesting about what you said about my left brain, my right brain, right?
Yeah.
Right now, not only right now, but right now more than ever, is adaptability, ethical clarity. Ooh. Someone was asking me not long ago, so, what do you look into people, right? And I say, well, certainly it's the brain, the adaptability, but integrity is number one. Yeah. If you don't have that, you're not at my table, right? So adaptability, ethical clarity, and emotional intelligence, which is, going back on the intuition, or etc. So if you do have the experience, and you have traveled through the last 20 years of your human professional life, and you didn't take any post-it notes, right? These things, right? The post-it notes of the people you met, the emotions that you felt, the discoveries that you've made. That's boring. That's boring. So that's what I think. That's what I feel, right? And we are living today through an extraordinary time. We said it when we met. It's technological acceleration. People wanted to, there's some brutality that we are all witnessing, and often we feel powerless. We have catastrophes and climate, all of that. Okay. But also, if we restrict to something much closer to home, the leadership style, so outdated. Some models. I mean, I've been in organizations where we look at leadership methodologies and sales methodologies, or etc. But as you know, I am an economist by trade. I decided to continue technology, but certainly I'm well acquainted and well equipped to read contracts or Excel spreadsheets, right? It's not necessarily what I want to do. But I've been for the last 25 years and etc. And I still hear the language, people talking about hunting, farming, and all this kind of stuff that you and I both know this terminology belongs to IBM, Oracle, 90s. And the world has changed. So what is missing, I think, is the integration, right? So technology is treated today as a tool rather than a system that reshapes behavior, cultures, and power dynamics, right? So going back on disruption, your word, my title, right? Isn't about breaking things just for the sake of it, right? So let's, but it's about questioning those assumptions that redesign the system. Example. We have in the world of what is closer to home right now, conversational AI, digital agent, digital assets, or etc. But the infrastructure is 30, 40 years old. So it's like literally putting a very, very fast last generation, next generation trains on pieces of steel on the ground. They are Victorian age. So it's important that we understand our ecosystem. So the disruption is actually not breaking, but adapting.
Yes.
And go with the change. But it is fascinating. We probably need another episode to talk about leadership style.
There's so much what you just said that is exactly the conversations that I'm having with senior leaders looking at organizational systems to say, wait, this doesn't work anymore. This is outdated. What are we going to do differently? How are we going to do things differently? And words like integration, compassion, humanity, less about a lot of the transactional terminology that we hear every day, thinking about all the competencies, all the buzzword bingos that I could rattle off, like business acumen, strategic aptitude, are you a visionary, all that stuff is very much intact. I don't know if we need to expand upon all of those things. We have to bring in all these other aspects to ourselves. So much of the language you're using is like, I'm like jumping up and down inside, like, yes, more of this, please. And that leads me to my next question, because you're very, very focused also on the future. And you have a very keen interest in looking at the next generation and helping them in a very active way. And I'd love for you to talk about, why this is important to you, and what are you doing to help future generations? You made mention of it a little bit in being in classrooms around STEM, but I'd love to hear your perspective there.
So, when I don't have time, I don't have free time, when people say, do you have hobbies? I said, well, yeah, in my parallel life, I do plenty. I have plenty. But if I do carve myself, if I manage to carve myself an hour or two, there are plenty of schools where we can, especially around where I live, right? I'm not far away from Bletchley Park. Imagine that. Wow. I actually worked for a company not long ago, and I opened my headquarter in 2017, 18. I opened my headquarter of that particular company, which we shall not name, in Bletchley Park, in the mansion, exactly where Professor Turing was with the code breakers were working to decode the Nazi. Anyway, so life right? So I ended up here and I opened my office there. So yeah, it does make me a tiny bit emotional, thinking about that time and what Alan Turing and the code breakers and everything represented for me. And I was very grateful that I was given the opportunity to actually be there for a couple of years. So STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, right? So it was an initiative from the UK government where they wanted to motivate young children, to go into those subjects. So this is how I started, right? So I was recruited as a volunteer to be doing exactly that for my interest in technologies. And not long ago, they happened more or less when I won a prize for technology. For some embassy recognition, young Italian awards. So being Italian, young Italian awards, we're talking about a few years ago, right? So that's when they called me. So yeah, I met a few people and I was inspired. I said, yeah, let me do that. And I really enjoy, I've got, as you know, my children today are 20 and nearly 18, nearly 20 and nearly 18. So I have two of those at home. But having a conversation with your own children is very different. So I went into a number of schools, and the first question that I was asked is, how much do you earn? What do you do? And the first question always, Jean, is always, and so you need to try to, and they say to me, but wow, how did you do that? They could going back to our original question, my career, the linear path, not really. It's always been trying different things to see if I did like, and always taking experience from wherever I've been. And that's always my message. Be exposed, try different things. If you have a curiosity for the viola, try that. And this is what the main difference that I have observed, having been here in UK for the last 25 years, I would say, is that having studied in Italy, and I told you about how lucky I was, because I was going my primary school and middle school and high school, they were state school. Yet we were exposed to computer science, to all possible instruments you can possibly think of when it comes to music. Music, art are mandatory until 16. And that's fantastic, because what do you know? If I don't give you a violin, maybe you like it, maybe you're gonna crash towards the wall, but I need to expose you to different disciplines so that you know what you like and what you don't. And that was very important to me. So the message that I try to convey to young people is just try. As you need to get out there, you need to experience life. If you are 16, 17, you want to be out. And that's what I tell children. I said, I was lucky enough to be exposed, but read, listen, go out, do volunteering. Both of my children went to work in care homes with people of a certain age that might be lonely. You don't necessarily need to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, right?
Yeah.
There are very great things that you can do next door to you, and you can learn by listening from other people's experiences. You see, not extravagant stuff,
I want to support everything you're saying. I'm going to do a yes and, because I also think everything you've just said is also something that the professional that's listening or watching, that's an executive or emerging executive right now, needs to think about this too. Because what we have to challenge is one way of thinking. We need multidimensional thinking. We need multidimensional experiences to inform this new way of being. And I have an untested theory, but my untested theory is companies want you heads down busy executing, delivering, and producing for them. And the more they do that, the less time you have to have this expansive experience. And what do I mean by expansive experience? I mean networking, going to dinners, going to yoga classes, having coffees, having lunch with people that are outside your functional line, with people that are in your organization that you kind of admire. You're curious to know a little bit more about their story. I mean, that was just even thinking about what connected us. Asia May knows me. She knows my story. She knows you. She knows your story. We didn't know where it was going to go, but so much of what you said resonated so much. And that creates a richer human experience for me, which then will serve other people. So it's not one dimensional. It comes and goes. It's very like reciprocal. And I'm just seeing a real trend where people are sticking in linear, analytical, black and white, one way paths instead of saying, wait a second, what about all this other stuff? It's like ushering in other parts of yourself, but you don't get to explore those other parts of yourself unless you're doing exactly what you're saying and what you're encouraging the younger generation to do. So I just wanted to reflect that back. Another moment where I was jumping up and down inside. Yes, more of this, please.
So exactly that if I think back at what you just said, must be a reason why it's been easier for me in startup environments or scale ups, because those 360 degrees interest, abilities, exposure, they could serve the organization. Because when I was in environments of 2, 3, 4 people where we all had to really work hard, so that we had to throw away all the nasty things that they were taught that we have observed in larger organizations, but take the good stuff, right? So think about the processes, think about how to go out and shout the name for not necessarily revenue, but market share, to go into a new market. For example, how the being exposed to marketing events, legal contracts, business development, etc., can literally help the growth of a startup. This is probably why, Jenny, I've been wildly successful in startup scale-ups rather than corporates, because I do not fit the dress. I am, and I'm always going to be, I'm never going to change. I was from a very young age, right? Equipped with curiosity, adaptability, multi-talented, I can say talent without sounding immodest, right? So, but I had so many things that I wanted to contribute to. And this is, there is place for everyone. So if I have worked with some tremendous people, very, very strong professionals, not necessarily I will bring them with me in my next adventure. Because they will suffer and I will disservice them. So I have around me my dream team, people that I was lucky enough to meet in the last 20 years. But in my dream team, there are people that I could not ask to move with me, for example, in a startup down the garage with 3 laptops and a coffee machine, because they are used and they are functional and they function very, very well with a structure around someone to do the marketing presentation, someone to do the contract, the legal, or etc. So it's probably my, no criticism, right? But it's probably my limit and my virtue. If you want a jack of all trades, someone that is good at many things, but not necessarily excellent at none, I'm your person. And this is good for life. It's if you get into a jungle, you want to make sure you get stranded in a jungle, with people like me. I know how to build a fire because of the nuns.
Yes. You'd be great in an escape room. You would be so good in one of those escape rooms.
One of those.
So where I want to end our conversation is more of a reflective question for you.
Yeah.
I want you to look out over the next couple of years. I want you to think about, what do you want your impact to be in the world?
Oh, that's a question. So You know that I also have, because of all the interests that I have, right? So I have now founded the single room, the signal room with a very good friend of mine. And we are a group of executives that, because of what's going on in the world, we reflect on those signals, right? We started with design for AI, and we are now talking about EU mega factories, the geopolitical tensions, and we try to meet a couple of times a year to discuss around those signals. So I have been working with a couple of people. So I do often collaborate with a couple of professors, for example, the London School of Economics, where as I am heavily interested in academia at the same time, and it gives me a lot, but I work in a corporate environment. So if I can, they ask me to go and talk about our perspective, what organizations are doing, how they see the world, and etc. And academia gives us a return. So I try to do that, and at the same time, I'm involved in conversation around what the European Union especially, is doing to fight back some of the brutalities that we have received recently, and we need to be stronger, right? And because I also match to Europe, I am half Italian of Belgium. I am clearly, proudly Italian. I'm a grateful British. But there is one flag that possibly, I'm not necessarily in love with flags, but one flag that strongly represents me is the blue one with the 27 stars. I am profoundly European. I believe in Europe. During my studies, I graduated in my MBAs from Rome, but I studied in Dublin. I studied at the École de Commerce Solvay in Brussels. So I'm very, Mike Carney was talking about being a globalist. Here I am.
Right.
So I would like to continue to work and represent Europe. I'm lucky that today I'm working for a European yet global organization, but with European headquarter. I owe a lot to the globalization that we have enjoyed and the prosperity of the last 20 years. I hope is going to continue. I want to continue to be part of those organizations that also allow me to bring back what I learned in those other rooms that I participate in. So technology that today, for example, I work for an organization where we provide the bridge between organizations and their clients through agents, human agents, and synthetic ones that are empowered by our proprietary technology. So I want to be part of those organizations where humanity continues to be at the center.
Yeah.
Where the heart is at the center, and technology serves humanity. Organizations that are more ethical, more inclusive, and most importantly, adaptive, so that they wake up and see what's going on. I'd like to see long-term thinking. I'd like to see more cross collaboration. I'd like across different disciplines around the organization itself. I'd love to see more. I was saying something, but you're gonna beat me. I would like to see more courage. I'd like to see more courage redesigning the system around humans.
Yes.
I'd
Yes,
love to
please.
see that, and I'd like to see less. Mark Carney was talking about this yesterday, right? I'd like to see less fear-driven leaders or individuals, because leader is a big thing, right? And yeah, if I could conclude, yes, I would like to see technology that serves the human race finally. And I'm very, very grateful that you have given me the time to talk about me rather than just the companies that paid my salary in the last 25 years.
You have such an amazing story. I feel so grateful to you giving me your time and your heart and your wisdom. And I'm just really excited to bring your story to more people. And I'm grateful for all that you're doing in the world. And there are so many things you said that are going to sit with me the rest of the day into the weekend. So, Marenza, I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you. And remember our coffee in New Jersey, right?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Warriors at Work show. If you are interested in learning more about what we do at the Warriors at Work show and platform, be sure to go over to my website, Jeannie Coomber, and subscribe to my monthly Warrior Playbook newsletter. I share everything that I'm up to month by month, as well as some lessons and insights that I've learned. I'm also interested in hearing any feedback you have about this conversation or future topics. So reach out to me directly on jc@jeanniecoomber.com or on LinkedIn. Be sure to tell your friends and your colleagues about this Warriors at Work conversation. Subscribe, review, and rate us. It's the best way to get this message out into the world. Be well.